Virunga National Park was founded in 1925 by King Albert of Belgium for the express purpose of protecting the mountain gorillas. Albert, a nephew of brutal King Leopold II, was an early conservationist, but he didn't care much for the local population. When Virunga's borders were drawn, many were forced from their homes. This royal decree created massive resentment. 9 years ago, the conflict between the park's protectors and those bent on its exploitation exploded in a crime so horrific that it commanded the world's attention. The bodies of 7 gorillas were found in the forest. They'd been shot, execution style. In Rumungabo, behind the old ranger station, is a cemetery. Photographs of their corpses sparked outrage worldwide. The man who took those photos, Brent Sturton, still covers the park today. Some of these gorillas are survivors of the massacre. One is the orphan of the silverback, Senkwekwe.
One of the most powerful images I think I've ever seen, certainly related to conservation and conflict, is the picture that you took of the giant silverback. Could you sort of walk me through the events of that day in July 2007?
It was raining quite hard at the time, and there were a number of groups in the area that we needed to be careful of, so it was tense. We found the bodies of 4 females at that point, one of which was pregnant. What was quite shocking to me was one of the females had been burnt. You know, if you wanted to make a shocking statement about your derision for wildlife, this would be the kind of statement that you'd make. We marked where the females were, and we knew that there was a possibility of others that had been killed. And so we came back very early the next morning, and we found the silverback. And we knew that one of the babies was missing. So at that point, that was 7 and the silverback. The villagers came up, and these are villagers who live on the periphery of the park. When they attached the gorillas to these makeshift stretchers, they plugged the bullet holes with flowers and leaves, and they plugged the mouths with flowers and leaves. You know, it had a practical application. It was more that they were going to prevent fluids from leaking out on the porters or just contain things. But it also was funeral-esque. They evacuated these gorillas from sheer brute force. They just lifted them up and put them on their shoulders and then walked them really miles. It took them, you know, a good 6-7 hours to do it. They did most of it in silence, and that's really unusual in Africa. When we were carrying them out, it was very hard for me to get an angle that I felt summed up, you know, what I needed to say about what I was watching, because it was quite biblical, really, you know. So I ran ahead of this group, and I built like a small pile of rocks, and I climbed on top of those rocks as they were coming past me, so I could get some kind of overhead. It's interesting as a journalist because you get quite hardened dealing with human death, but it was my first experience of. It's ridiculous because I still. It's funny because it's still one of those things that really moves me.
From what I understand, the investigations into the reasons for the gorillas' murders was because of the charcoal industry.
What we found in the course of this investigation into the killing of the gorillas was that there was a charcoal cabal. And this charcoal cabal had threatened the rangers and said, we'll kill your gorillas if you don't stop interfering in our business. Charcoal is important because it's the main source of heat and cooking in the region. Anyway, bottom line is that the source of hardwood is in the park. It's to get the hardwood, you must destroy habitats. To destroy habitats, you affect the gorillas and every other animal in the region, and you also see expansion into the park.
In North Kivu, only 7% of a population of millions have access to electricity. So charcoal is the main source of heat and fire for cooking.
The charcoal industry was worth about $40 million a year, which is a significant amount in this region, and that there were Tutsi businessmen, there were members of the Congolese army involved in all of this. But what was a surprise was that the person that was spearheading it from the park's perspective was a guy called Mashagiro. Now, Mashagiro was the warden in charge of the gorilla sector park at the time. And then it emerged that a few rangers had actually been involved in the killing. So, very difficult situation for the rangers investigating to find that their boss was one of the guys responsible.